Gaddafi's response today is very much to completely ignore the abuses that are taking place by his own forces and to blame it on everyone else. That certainly is a pattern in his rhetoric, in his discourse, and we've seen that for many years. Gaddafi says he's a man of the people. He's certainly a man of his people in the sense of the unaccountable security services that report directly or indirectly to him, and who appear to have been responsible for some of the worst abuses over recent days and weeks. Now, he speaks at the same time with contempt about other parts of the population, with people who disagree with him, who disagree with his ideas. He says he's a man of the people, but actually his actions and his words over recent days really show that he is not. Now, if we look back on recent years, there have been demonstrations which have been heavy-handedly repressed, but nothing on this scale. You have to go back, for instance, to the 1980s, where there were, in fact, armed attacks, there were coup attempts against Gaddafi. The response to that was brutal. There were, for instance, mass arrests of so-called counter-revolutionaries and public executions, as well as so-called physical liquidation of opponents in exile. Libya under Gaddafi was isolated from the international community for many years. It was only after 2003 that we were able to open up to the international community when it announced that it was going to dismantle its weapons of mass destruction program. So what we saw then was a cozying up to Libya, in fact, as the West in particular saw opportunities in the oil sector for arms sales, to combat migration, in the case particularly of the European Union, and another partner in the war on terror, and a willing one at that. And what we have seen in return has been really very little in terms of human rights improvements. I mean, there has been some legal reform, and there has been some opening up of the media space in Libya. But really, at the end of the day, this has generally been fig leaves for what remains a very repressive system in which unaccountable security services operate above the law. Well, there's been a shocking lack of accountability for gross human rights violations perpetrated in Libya over the last few decades. In fact, some of the people out on the streets in Benghazi in recent days and weeks have been families of prisoners who died in a prison massacre back in 1996 in a Tripoli prison. And they've been appealing for both truth, there's never been any list of the dead in that massacre, and for justice. And part of the reason that people are so angry with the current regime is because there hasn't been justice. And they are appealing for justice for current crimes as well. And if we look back at that whole range of abuses, there've got to be serious questions asked of Gaddafi's role in all of this.